Okay, I want to do a little video on NewsGuard, which is a new software application for browsers, which I saw Tim Pool tweeting about. He was asking NewsGuard, this new company that monitors and grades news publisher sites about their trustworthiness, why BuzzFeed is ranked, a trustworthy site. So that got me thinking, well, okay, fair enough, but what the heck is NewsGuard? So maybe this video will be part one about what is NewsGuard, and this will be just kind of an introductory, because I think there's a lot of interesting ideas to explore here with what NewsGuard is doing. And to give you a rundown, if you've never heard of NewsGuard, NewsGuard is a new private company operating out of New York City that goes around and gives news organizations like the New York Times or BuzzFeed News a rating, a nutrient label is what they call it. And they basically only have 4 nutrient labels. They either give it a green, which is like trustworthy source, red, which is an untrustworthy source, like an incomplete, like this is too new, where it just seems to be reposting other stuff, like kind of a news collation site or news collection site. 4, I can't even quite make my fingers like that. 4, this is a news satire site, like The Onion, so take that for what you will. That's its job. That's what its aim or mission is to set out to do, and it goes around reviewing these news sites and giving them a rank. And they have various criteria, and they talk about their 9 criteria for what they are, and we can get into that. I'm sure InfoWar has a red sign, which means it's not trustworthy. If you click The Atlantic, it has like a NewsGuard seal of approval. Now, the first question that comes to mind here is, well, one, how are they grading what is trustworthy or like factual? But more importantly is, how are they making money? Because you can get into interesting incentives here about who's paying the bills. So NewsGuard claims that, well, publishers don't pay us any money for the review of their site, which is basically what it is. NewsGuard is reviewing their site, and NewsGuard is made up of many trusted journalists, they say. Although if you look at it, they have 12 people on staff and then 30 contributing analysts. That's what they call contributing analysts, or people that I guess help NewsGuard verify sites that are trustworthy. Anyway, they say they do not take money from publishers. Instead, they take money from platforms and SEO, search engines. Now, this is interesting to me. So is their business model then that Google and Facebook and Instagram pay them to let them scan their platform and whatever content's hosted on their platform, websites are hosted on their platform, to give a label to? I'm not quite sure how many search engines or platforms there exist to really make it profitable, as it seems as if they charge a subscription. So hypothetically, the NewsGuard is going to Google and saying, hey, we have this browser application that users download on the Chrome. You should pay us so we can go through all the news sites that are hosted on your front page at Google, and we'll give them a trustworthy rating. Now, okay, let's say Google says sure, because they don't want to get hit with the flack of fake news. And let's say Facebook says sure, because they don't want to get hit with the flack of fake news. I'm kind of reaching for what other, platforms that are large enough that would pay big enough subscription fees to NewsGuard to sustain a relatively large company, it appears like, especially into perpetuity. Nonetheless, the reason why I want to talk about specifically the monetary angle is, in the financial world, in investment banking, there's something called credit rating agencies. And the credit rating agencies rate financial securities by banks in very layman's terms. That means Deutsche Bank and Goldman Sachs and JP Morgan have a financial security, or some sort of product that you can buy, bond, ETF, stock. Just pulling things here for examples, and they go to mortgage-backed securities, and they go to Moody's or a credit rating agency, and they say, "Hey, can you rate this? Because we want to sell it to the open market to the public. People can invest in it." And then the rating agency hypothetically looks it over and says like, "Oh yeah, we're going to rate this an A. This is like a super safe product. Like anybody can feel free investing in this. They're highly unlikely to lose money. Instead, no, this security is more of a C. Like this has much higher risk, so we're going to give it a C rating." That's what these credit rating agencies do in investment banking. Now, the problem lies in their financial incentive, because partly the way these credit rating agencies make money is by the volume of work. So they're incentivized, if they just give poor credit ratings to everything that Goldman Sachs bring them, then Goldman Sachs is not going to want to bring their securities to that credit rating agency. they'll just bring it to their credit rating agency's competitor. And there's multiple credit rating agencies. And that's what happened in financial banking. And there's an interesting element where this could happen here in the kind of media news journalism world, where while they say like, oh, we're not going to take money from publishers, at all, we're going to take it from Facebook and SEO and Google, I could foresee a time, possibly, I'm not saying they do this, where they start saying like, oh, if you want your new news site to be rated, like, well, you got to pay us a fee. So that's something like BostWiki News in 2024, I'm opening a news site. Now NewsGuard has grown kind of large. Suddenly they're like, well, you got to pay us a fee, we'll review it. And that is when suddenly it gets tricky, and where they might be incentivized to give certain, trustworthy ratings to certain companies that they have favors or pay them more money than to others. Let's say I start my news agency and I'm like, no, I don't want to pay your $50,000 fee to get your, NewsGuard seal of approval on Google search. Like, the heck with that. Like, my journalism is quality. My journalists are good. I'm not paying your fee. They could give my company, a red, and then everybody on Google would be like, oh, this is an untrustworthy site. This is a hypothetical, but it leads to an interesting scenario that's very akin to what has happened and occurs in the financial banking world. Anyway, this is just part one. I don't want to make this video too long. There's a lot more to explore in NewsGuard, particularly how they rank what is trustworthy or not trustworthy, like what is legitimate news, what isn't legitimate news, what is their criteria, which I can dig into and will dig into in a future video, and two, who are these trusted journalists doing it? So, watch again tomorrow to learn more. Like and subscribe. Thanks, guys, as always. I'll see you guys tomorrow.